live right now. There's still a couple of minutes. So, okay, this is it's already time. So, welcome to everybody to this first inaugural session of our JD Laity Formation Program. I'm Dinesh Briganza, a default coordinator of this program. Since Father Stephen Jayard was the main coordinator, but then he went and got COVID. He peeked into the valley of death and came back again. So, welcome to all of you. Welcome to Stephen very specially. We pause a moment asking Our Lady of the Way to pray for us to be on this journey of Our Lady Formation Program. And perhaps together we can say, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb, Jesus.
Recording in progress.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. I now invite Father Francis Gonsalves, Francis Bhai, as he likes to be called, to say a few words. Now, Francis Bhai is the president of Jnana, and he is one of the moving forces behind getting this JD Laity program up and running. So over to you, Francis.
Good evening, dear sisters and brothers in Jesus Christ. This is indeed a moment of great joy and gratitude. We have been thinking for a very long time to begin this program of so-called training for the lay faithful. And as we know very well that the church is in a process of the synod, of journeying together. And Pope Francis, who is one of the movers, so to say, of this whole process, speaks of listening, that each one of us is called to listen. I really don't like too much the word Laity Formation Program, because I think it is a two-way street. As much as we here from Jnana try to form, so to say, the lay faithful are also forming us. And this is an encounter, a two-way street of listening of speaking, of reflecting, and of discerning, all in the power of the Holy Spirit. I'm very glad that so many of you have enrolled, and I'm sure in this process, many more will come along the way, and we shall journey together, knowing fully well that the Spirit is with us. Each one of us here, through our baptism, our communion with God, with one another, each one of us is going to contribute to the success of this course. The topics which are chosen are very specifically for the synodal kind of process. And the opening batsman, as we would say here in India, is our dear brother, Father Jayard, who's had the worst of times and who has bounced back all through prayer, through deep faith of his family members and all of us. So I wish that all of us have a beautiful journey together, holding our hands, walking together with God's Spirit, learning from each other, and progressing towards that beautiful life that God wants all of us to share with all those who are less privileged than ourselves. So remember the wider context as we venture out into this beautiful initiative. So over to you, Dinesh, the organizers. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Francis. I think you have just helped me you stole my thunder actually, because I was just about to say, Laity formation program is us journeying with Laity, sure, but Laity forming us, exactly what Pope Francis was saying. So, when we don't know whether it is great, people think alike, so Francis and I think alike, and that's great. Or maybe it's just that foods seldom differ. But whichever way it is, it's a two-way street. And we look forward to learning from all those who participated on this journey and learning from Stephen Jayard today. So over to you, Stephen.
Thank you, Dinesh, and thank you for Francis Gonzalez for the kind of introduction and setting the whole event of our Laity program. So I'm glad that many of our friends have joined. And as Father Francis mentioned, I'm the opening batsman. Yesterday, Dinesh told me that opening will be dazzling. I said, opening is dazzling, I do not know. Whether it's a dazzling or puzzling, maybe at the end you'll come to know. And I'm happy to be the opening batsman, but I don't know whether the audience will be happy about it. So at the end of the talk, they will decide. And am I audible, Dinesh? It's fine? Okay, good. Because once a seminar, I asked like this, am I audible? One student said, Father, you're not audible, but no problem, go ahead. We are not missing anything. So I'm glad that I'm audible. And as Father Francis mentioned, we take the current topics in the society, in the church, and we journey together, the priests, the lay people, and JD, Jnana Deepa has taken this initiative. And as they mentioned, I just come out of the corona infection, of course, 3 months back. So they asked me to share some of the experiences and also to situate that in the liturgical context. Namely, soon we are going to celebrate the All Souls Day and On Sales Day. So that is the context in which we are talking. And usually when I give lecture, when my points are not powerful, I prepare PowerPoint. So today also I have prepared a PowerPoint. So I'll share the screen. Yes. Is it okay, Dinesh?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay. I will see you in the ICU. God says, reflection on COVID, life and death. My neighbor, Father V.M. Jose mentioned, seeing this title, people might be frightened. I'll see you in the ICU, as if God is punishing us or threatening us. Then I said the title may be frightening, but once they listen to my sharing, they'll be confident. They'll be filled with faith and trust. Also, perhaps I can add, I will see you even in the ICU. That would have been better. Even in the ICU, God is ready to meet us and encourage us. So that's the spirit behind it. My sharing today has 4 parts. Part 1, sharing of my faith experiences, how the healing touched. Secondly, some lessons for humanity from COVID in general. Third, the mystery called life and death. I put together because, as we are going to see, both are two sides of the same coin, life and death, in the context of All Souls Day. And the last part will be some practical tips for a saintly life in the context of All Saints Day. So these are the four parts that we are going to look into today. Part one, the experiences of the healing touch. The month of May, my mother and myself, we were infected in the beginning of May 2021. And that time in India, there was great demand for oxygen bed facilities. And it was a tough situation across India. It's really painful to see lines of ambulances at the entrance of the hospitals, and people are waiting with the mask, without mask, oxygen cylinders, even at the crematorium and cemeteries, full of people. So it was a situation where we got infected, and we were also struggling to get hospital accommodation in Trichy. We struggled a couple of places. Then my mother, we took her to the GH, General Hospital, Government Hospital. We took the scan. After some time, she got a place in the private hospital. We shipped there. But within a week's time, my mother got well. And when my mother was admitted, after 2 or 3 days, I was also admitted in the same hospital. But somehow the treatment did not work out well with me. My mother went home within a week. I think all good people get healed immediately, I think. Then we tried to get some expensive medicines from St. John's Medical College Hospital, because our fathers are there. Our father, Paul Parathalum, who was a professor here in JD earlier, he was my professor and colleague. And then for Jayard, he's the associate director, my companion in theology, who studied in Pune also. Again, for Charles Davis, another associate director, who joined St. John's from this June. So all these people were there, so they could send some medicines. But even those medicines did not help me here. So on 16th May, they decided to take me to St. John's Hospital itself. And I was admitted in the ICU straight away. And during the lockdown period, we could travel very fast. Within 4 hours, we reached Bangalore from Trichy. And 17th May, next day, it was my birthday. And the previous years, I used to travel abroad during the summer vacation. April, May, seminary is closed. So I used to go for some talks, seminars, and pastoral ministry, things like that. So I had an opportunity of celebrating my birthdays in different countries, in South Korea, in the US and Canada, Malaysia, Sri Lanka. So I used to be very proud, I'm able to celebrate my birthday, different countries every year. Perhaps God must have told me that time, in 2021, I'll see you in the ICU on your birthday. Unfortunately, God must have whispered, I could not hear. Had he spoken a little loudly, perhaps I would have been careful. And so I was in the ICU. In such a situation, I did not even know it was my birthday. And it was very nice of our Papal Seminary staff and students and JD, Jnana Deepa staff and students, to arrange a prayer service for me on that particular day to wish me, plus to pray for me on that particular day to wish me well. And it is available in the YouTube. Then when I came out of the hospital, of course, I came to know, and I'm ever grateful to all the staff and students of Papal Seminary and JD. And then I was in the ICU for about 1 week or 10 days. I came out. I was okay, getting slowly better. But suddenly I got the hospital infection, so-called pneumonia. Again, back to the ICU. I had breathing difficulties, and the oxygen level was decreasing, and the carbon dioxide was increasing. And now later, my brother, John Brito, about whom I'll mention later, he told me that it was 9th of June, the carbon dioxide was increasing. Incidentally, that was the day my death anniversary of my father. And unfortunately, he also died of lack of oxygen. Carbon dioxide was more in his body. His heart could not function. And so he peacefully passed away. He went back to God. So I always say dad with God. And I think today, Daddy must have been praying for me that day, that he came to God without oxygen, more carbon dioxide, but let my son be there for some more years. And God heard my dad's prayer also. And then potassium level was decreasing. So I was put the ventilator again. And after some time, things improved with all the prayers and God's grace. And I came back to the semi-ICU. And there I could see some patients getting heart attack. Just in front of one patient, they took him for some scan. When they brought him, he suffered heart attack and they struggled 10, 15 minutes. Anyway, he got back. Next day, a fellow on my left side, left bed, he got heart attack. I thought, okay, the next chance is for me, I think, my turn. And then, of course, all these things were there. And it was very pitiable to see patients moaning in great pains. One patient, even after morphine also, the pain did not subside and he was moaning. I started praying for them in the ICU. But then slowly I could recover. I could read newspaper. I started using my mobile, of course, limited use. My family, relatives, colleagues, students, and friends in India and abroad all were praying for me. And many of them prayed over the phone also. My mother, sister, and others were constantly praying over the phone for me and encouraging. My brother and cousin were also with me. They were also encouraging me and always strengthening me. And about 2 weeks before my discharge, I got a dream. In the dream, one night I heard the voice, "I have healed you." And then immediately asked for a sign. God, you have healed me, go me and show me a sign. Basically, I'm a professor of philosophy. See, we always go by science and proofs. So I asked for a sign, and God was so kind. Immediately gave me a sign. A kind of oyster-like thing was moving from my heart, my left to the right lungs. Blue color, very shining, pearl-like, moving from my heart to the lungs. And that was a great sign. I was so touched. Immediately I asked in the dream itself, "Am I a saint that you are giving me the sign immediately?" And then the voice said, "No, you're my son." And that was a great real experience. I did not tell my brother that time also. Then later I was sharing with him. So it was quite a touching experience. Staying for 2 months in the hospital, I was discharged, very weak, could not walk or talk. I'm able to do online classes and celebrate classes for small groups and play some TT game also. Usually I play with my father friend, priest, Father Susailangara. He says, "I play better now after COVID." I think this is one of the COVID side effects, I think. I play the TT game better, I think. In the hospital, doctors themselves were confident and they were sure. They told me several times that I was healed due to God's grace, mercy, and blessing. And I am also sure, and I confess and boldly acknowledge, gratefully acknowledge, and the doctors also were saying, the difference between grace and mercy, mercy and blessing. Grace is when God gives us good things that we don't deserve. Mercy is when He spares us from bad things we deserve. Blessings are when He is generous with both. Truly, we can never run out of reasons to thank Him. So I personally thank, along with you, my family and friends, for grace, mercy, and blessing. And saluting with gratitude, of course, my dear brother, Mr. John Brito, who stayed with me for 2 months, facing risks, because in the beginning, he also did not have the vaccine. Only later he had, but he was very bold, unlike me. And of course, confidence in the prayers and the God's grace. And then I thank his family also. Then my cousin brother, Mr. Henry Rosari from Chennai, he also joined my brother after a month. And my dear nephew, Mr. Calvin, who took care of me when I reached home, Trichy, my home diocese, the bishop's house. And all these people were managing themselves work from home, rather work from hospital, I should say, and a few days of medical leave. So they were very generous. I salute them. And then, as I mentioned, for Paul Parthalam, Jesuda, Charles Davis, and the spiritual fathers at St. John's Hospital, all the medical fraternity with great dedication and devotion, care, and commitment, they are working. Right, Arikadash, our bishop, priest of Right Reverend Thomas Dapre, bishop and priest of Pune Diocese. Instantly, our Bishop Thomas is celebrating his gold jubilee of his priesthood tomorrow. So we take this opportunity to wish him also. Rectors of Papal Seminary, Jnana, Deepa, all the staff and students. Of course, my mother, my family, relatives, students, colleagues, all my friends, India and abroad. And all these people were playing a very important role, so I thank all of them. Now, the whole experience, when I look at with the eyes of faith, we generally ask many questions in our lives, why questions in our life. And everybody will ask in some time or the other, why this? And again, why me to God? Everyone will encounter this question. It's an existential question rooted in our limits and limitations because we are bound by space and time. And it reveals the fact of our incompleteness in life. However, whatever we do or achieve, the sense of incompleteness will be at the end of the day. And the question why arises from that incompleteness, I think. And I want to give you the example, this Arthur Ashe, a Wimbledon player, some of you might know, and he was very world famous. He got the Wimbledon award, etc. And accidentally, he got infected with HIV during the blood transfusion. So many people asked him, why God permitted this in him? He was so sympathetic towards him. He said very clearly, millions of teenagers aspire to become tennis players. Out of them, only 100,000 reach to some popularity. Out of them, only a few thousand play in some circuit. And out of them, only 100 or so play in the Grand Slam. Finally, only 2 reach the final Wimbledon. I won the Wimbledon championship. When I was standing with the trophy of Wimbledon in my hand, I never questioned God, why me? And now, what right do I have to ask God, why me? It's a great lesson for us, my dear friends, I think. No pleasant, happy moments or sad moments, we need to trust God. And when we ask this question, why? Naturally, we are asked to surrender ourselves to God's supreme wisdom. Father Cyril de Brule, our professor in Jnana Deepa, he used to say, we must be prepared to reach the graveyard with some unanswered questions in our life. Some of you know him, he is in Pune. And Jesus healing a man born blind. This passage often comes to my mind. You know, when the apostles asked him, this man is born blind, is it because of his sin or the sin of his parents? Jesus beautiful answer. Neither because of his sins nor his parents, but that God's glory might be revealed in him. Maybe I think God used me as an instrument, though it was a painful process, to reveal his glory and his presence. And Psalm 91, which is a part of my daily spiritual reading, we come across these verses, as you know. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will tread on the lion and the cobra, you will trample the great lion and the serpent. Because he loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. Now, when I read these lines of the psalm, it becomes more meaningful. And also, I like to add these words. Even if you are put on ventilator, even twice at that, you will come out of it safe. So, sharing of my faith experience with more details available in the YouTube with the same title. I will see you in the ICU, both in time. Okay, friends. So my first part is over. Now we are coming to the second part. Some lessons from COVID for whole humanity. I got some lessons for my basic life. Now I reflect along with you for some lessons for whole humanity. A complete change of style, lifestyle, as we know. Even when we go for mask, we have to go with mask. You see, everything is either online or with mask, including kissing and hugging. You see, the mother is hugging the child, but of course both are in mask, and this is kissing again with the mask. So what do we do? Either online or with a mask. My recent seminar in the ACPI, days back, Association of Christian Philosophers in India, shared some of these ideas, revisiting the idea of science, how COVID has forced humanity to revisit, to revise our understanding of science. From science, we have to move on to humble science. From dominating science, we need to move on to dialoguing science. Similarly, revisiting the notion of spirituality. We need to free spirituality from the clutches of religion. Though religion can be said to be the origin of spirituality, unfortunately, religion can be misused or abused. Therefore, we need to move to the level of spirituality from religion and supporting spirituality with scientific mysteries. Usually, we speak about mysteries in the world of metaphysics, theology, philosophy, and so on. But today, science is speaking about mysteries. And then finally, revisiting the very concept of humanity. COVID has forced everyone in the society to revisit, to revise the understanding of humanity, moving from horrible egoism to human equality. Moving from valuing valuables, we have to move to value values. And these are the things I shared that day. It is available in the YouTube, I think. I'm not going to repeat all those things. I just highlight only two aspects for our today. COVID has given many lessons individually and collectively. And today we will focus on two aspects, a lesson on humility, a lesson on fragility of life. First, on humility. Corona has offered a great lesson on humility. No more the property of just theology, spirituality, philosophy. Generally, we speak about humility as a virtue, divine virtue, spiritual virtue, in the world of theology, spirituality, philosophy. Unfortunately, even theologians and spiritual leaders, philosophers, because not in JD, other places, theologians and spiritual leaders, philosophers, they're not humble, they're arrogant. Actually, it's a self-contradiction in my opinion, because any real theologian, any real spiritual leader, any genuine philosopher has to have humility, and it's okay, we accept. But the point is, it is there even in the physical and hardcore science also. We are going to see some examples to show how humility plays an important role in science. Now we are cosmically insignificant. This is the view of the Milky Way galaxy, and we are here, our solar system in one corner, not at the center, and we are here. All right. And then can you see me? This is plenty of galaxies, and every light spot is a galaxy. This is a space we are speaking about. All the stars that you see at night are just part of this yellow circle. And you can see thousands of stars when the sky is clear. Now imagine the whole Milky Way galaxy, how many stars there will be. And this is another way of the known picture of the known universe. One can never know how many stars are there in the space, even if one lives forever, because the light from the stars will never reach us, because the stars are moving the other way and we are moving the other way. Even if a person lives forever, he or she will never know how many stars are there in the space, in the universe. Science can estimate, interestingly, the size of the known universe. They say it's about 93 billion light years across. The size of the unknown universe is bigger than that. How many times bigger? 150 sextillion times. Because 93 billion makes 93 followed by 21 zeros. The first one, so many kilometers, 93 followed by 21 zeros. And unknown universe is bigger than that, 150 followed by 21 zeros. Imagine, no, we cannot even imagine, so don't imagine. And the number of galaxies, they say 2 trillion galaxies. And the number of the galaxies will be more than all the sand grains on the planet Earth. That is the amazing universe we are thinking of. This just small picture shows this Milky Way galaxy. The width is 1,000 light years. 1,000 light years. The known universe is below 93 billion light years. That means if a star emits light, it takes 93 billion years to reach there. And you know the speed of light, enormous speed. In 1 second, 3 lakhs kilometers per second. In 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 month, 1 year, that's called light year. So light year is the distance traveled by light in 1 year. So we should not think light year is a year where Corona lockdown, we felt very light, that's a light year. No, light year is the distance traveled by light in 1 year, that is 9 trillion kilometers. Science can learn so much about the universe, but helpless in eradicating the extremely tiny virus. Now virus, the width is 20 to 400 nanometers. Nanometer is 10 to the power minus 9. That is, you take 1 meter, divide that into 100 crore times, 1 meter length, divide into 100 crore times. That minute, tiny thing is called nanometer. Just make a comparison. You know, this is less than a nanometer, the size of the atom, and the nanometer, this is the hydrogen atoms, 10 atoms put to shoulder together, thousands of nanometer, one blood cell. And if you imagine a mole on your tongue, it is 1 million nanometer. This black dot is 1 million nanometer. Human hair is 50,000 nanometer, not the length of the hair. Length some have very long, but the width of the hair. The width of the hair is 50,000 nanometer. Now you can imagine 20 nanometer, how small it would be. That is a virus, and today science is struggling to eradicate it. Science has to kneel down before nature. How big or small are we in the universe? Humanity on one side and the universe is on the other side. You are here. This is a picture, the sun, and this is small arrow mark is the planet Earth. This is Jupiter, Saturn, other bigger planets. Already we look like a dot. Right. Okay. Wait a minute. Now this is sun and our Earth is like this. in terms of the whole sun, we are such small speck like. This is Earth from Mars. If you go to the planet Mars and turn back or turn anywhere, and you will see the Earth, and that's a dot. Carl Sagan, a great philosopher and scientist, he says, this blue dot, which we saw, no? This blue dot, it's so invisible. This blue dot, everyone we love, everyone we hate, everybody's living there. All the nations, all the continents, all the struggles, fights humanity has faced so far, and all the regimes, kingdoms, all powerful men, women, regimes, everything is here. Corrupt politician, even every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint or sinner in the history of the species lived here on this one small little dot, blue dot. And we should, when we realize this, so scientists realize the need for humility. In my opinion, arrogance is the result of ignorance. There is no room for arrogance in our lives. However we study or whatever we achieve in our lives, even science is teaching us, no matter how big our achievements, degrees, talents, possessions, titles, status, etc., arrogance, no place. Perhaps one way to remove arrogance in our lives is to realize that life is a full circle. What's a full circle? See, oftentimes we do not know the reality, so we get arrogant. We will never know how much we don't know. All that we know is what we know. Because only when I know the full quantity of reality to be known, I come to know that how much I do not know. Because only this much I know, this bigger amount I do not know. As long as I do not know the bigger amount to be known, I never know how much there to be known. All that I know is what I know. No, it looks very puzzling. As I said in the beginning, the talk may not be dazzling. This is one point of puzzlement. We will never know how much we don't know. All that we know is what we know. One simple example, in a classroom, the teacher comes to know 5 students are absent. How does she or he come to know? Because the total number of the class students should be 50, 45 are there, therefore 5 are absent. So unless the teacher knows the whole number of students who are supposed to be there, the teacher will never come to know how many are absent. Similarly, unless we know how much is there to be known in the reality, we will never know how much we don't know. And that is another reason for humility. And who is really ignorant? The ignorant are ignorant of their ignorance. And why I say life is a full circle? When a child is 1 year old, the success is the ability to walk without support. When the child is 4 years old, success is not to urinate in the dress. When the child is 8 years old, success is to know the way back home without getting lost. At 45, the success is to maintain youthfulness in their appearances. At 50, success is to be able to give good education to one's children. At 60, to be able to keep a driving license, that would be a matter of success. At 65, success is to live without diseases. At 70, success is not to be a burden to anyone in any way. At 75, success is to be still in touch with old friends, because it's very difficult to maintain the friendships at that age. And when it is 12, it has come. Okay, no problem. At 81, the success is to know the way back home without getting lost. If a old father, grandmother, grandfather, if he or she is at home, they go to the church and come back home safely, we feel it's a great successful thing. So at 81, success is to get back home without getting lost. At 86, success is not urinate in the dress. And at 90, success is the ability to walk without any support. You see, interestingly, success is the same as what was in the age 1, 4, 8, when we are 81, 86, 90. That's why I said life is a full circle. So when we realize this, naturally, humility is the only feeling that will emerge. And humility is not reducing myself to nothingness. It is not considering myself as a worm. Sometime back, in the olden days, saints used to pray, God, I am a worm in front of me. Please forgive me, accept me. In my humble opinion, it's not a good theology. Why? Because why to reduce myself to a worm? God has created me in his likeness and image. So I'm someone special in his eyes. So I need not reduce myself to a worm. If God had wanted, he would have created thousands of worms instead of me. In fact, he has created some worms within me also. So why should I reduce myself to a worm? Rather, what is humility? It's the deeper awareness that our lives are made possible by God, nature, and others who are created in the image and likeness of God. Now, science is very deeply teaching us this sense of humility, and COVID is one more occasion to get to know this. A lesson on the fragility of life on the earth. We covered the earth with the plastic. Unfortunately, Corona has covered us with plastic. These are the passengers in the flight, fully covered with plastic. What we did to the earth, now we are getting back. Our life is so fragile, we need to take care of earth. For example, how much water we waste very easily. When we hold 1 liter of water in the hand, we are having the whole cosmos in a way. Because if we put all the water molecules one by one, side by side as a chain, that water molecules, atoms, H2O, an atom, will go up to the moon 7.5 times. So long it will come. And the moon, earth, the distance between moon and the earth is about 4 lakh kilometers. It will go 7.5 times up and down. If all the water in the world is reduced to 4 liters, 1 teaspoon from it is a sweet water, and only 1 drop from it is available to us. All the other water is in terms of ice, mountains, and sea water. So if all the water in the world is reduced to 1 bucket of 4 liters, only 1 teaspoon is sweet water. We can drink drinkable water, potable water. From that, only 1 drop is available for all humanity. 800 crores of people, all animals and birds and everything has to share in that 1 drop. And how precious it is. Now, how much easily we waste cooking gas, excessive use of plastics, wasting fuel, increase of global warming, wasting electricity. So these are all great lessons for us. And Stephen Hawking said, even within 100 years, Earth will be too hot for us to live here. So we need to move on to other planet. But unfortunately, it's not that easy. It's not even possible in many ways, as the science thinks of very many different new ways. But even then, after 5 billion years, when the sun becomes too enlarged, all the planets will be sucked in and there is no chance to survive. Now, this is a picture of Stephen Hawking. And the scientists, the medical world gave him only 2 years to live because he had some special disease, muscular neuro disease in 1963, but he lived for 50 years and came out with great discoveries and so on. That itself is a miracle. Unfortunately, he denies God, but he himself has become a miracle. When the science world can give only 2 years for him to live, he could live for 50 years. 5 mass extinctions so far. From the history, from science, we know in the millions of years, there were several extinctions. I don't want to go into the details. For example, 250 million years ago, there was a single worst event life on Earth, lasting for about 60,000 years. 90% of all marine species were removed, killed. 1/3 of species on land died out because of this mass. This mass extinction, the last one, 65 million years before, we are quite familiar with that because the dinosaurs were wiped out because a big meteoroid crashed onto the earth, and that dust and heat was lasting for 32,000 years, and the whole species of dinosaurs were wiped out. Now scientists are fearing there can be 6th mass extinction. Lately, this mass extinction, the speed of growth is 100 to 1,000 times higher than the earlier pre-human extinction. Before the human beings appeared on the earth, the extinction was taking place, but now the speed has become more to up to 1,000 times. For the first time, a single species is going to be responsible for such destruction on the earth. So far, nature was responsible, like meteorites coming, etc. But now the single species, the humanity, we are going to create that extinction. It's a painful irony that it's the most, or perhaps the only intelligent species in the whole of the universe is causing this extinction. So you and I and the whole humanity need to be aware of it, careful of it. Something interesting to think about. See, we have not developed completely effective vaccines so far, no curative medicines. So we are, yes, 2 letters are missing. What are they? I and U. So only you and I can kill the virus by keeping ourselves away. By this, perhaps we can give VRS to virus, that is voluntary retirement from service to the virus. When you and I are missing from that, we need to be socially away. That doesn't mean we should be emotionally away from one another. Social distancing is not spiritual or emotional distancing. We still need to help in all possible ways, especially those who are affected with corona, We can supply them daily needs. We can make a phone call, send an email, because all these people undergo pain and agony of losing a dear and near one. They can't even give a decent and fitting farewell to them, and can't even see the body. And very often, the government, they take the bodies and cremate only box of ashes they bring. We need to increase the immunity power with the help of community power. Again, this is a lesson taught by COVID. Now we come to the third part. Hope you're all there with me, okay? At least face to face, we can know whether somebody is leaving the hall or not. Now I cannot know also. Okay, so it's again matter of faith. Okay, we have to believe without seeing, as Jesus says. Now we come to the third part, the mystery of life and death. In the context of All Souls Day, just a few words about the origin of the All Souls Day. All Souls Day, we can say in a nutshell, that dying is praying for the dead. There's nothing else. Once a small boy asked the grandfather, Grandpa, what's happening there? They were in the cemetery. Then the grandpa told him, no, nothing special. Only the dying are burying the dead. Very true, right? And 5th century, already way back in 5th century, masses were offered for the dead, and it became very slowly popular. All Souls Day, first instituted in the year 993 by St. Odilo on the day 2nd of November. And Pope Benedict XV in 1915, because of the countless death due to the First World War, he allowed priests to celebrate 3 masses. Otherwise, usually a priest generally says 1 mass. Of course, they can bind it for pastoral reasons. And now, on this day, we can say 3 masses. The Pope gave permission. And there's also a biblical basis. Book of 2nd Maccabees, which was written 160 BC. Judas Maccabeus was praying for those killed in the battle against Asmoneans. In the verse says 44, we find, if he were not accepting that those who had fallen would rise again, it would have been superfluous and foolish to pray for the dead. Therefore, there's a biblical basis, and there are many other texts also from the book of Gospel of John, Tobias, and Sirach, and so on. Okay. And the Council of Trent, it gave 3 important teachings in this regard. 1, the souls in the purgatory can be assisted by the prayers of those who still living on the earth and of the saints in heaven. The souls in purgatory cannot pray for themselves or for one another. The prayer leads to God's mercy more and reduces the duration of the punishment in purgatory. So this is a basic, simple faith. So we need to pray. The Reformation churches, the Protestant churches, they don't pay much interest. In fact, they say there is no need to pray because after all, salvation comes because of God's mercy. Of course, the Catholic Church knows that. It's only God's mercy saves us. But our prayer can appeal to God's mercy, because in the Bible, we have plenty of occasions to show where the prayer has made God reduce his anger or punishment. Example, the people of Nineveh. So there is nothing wrong to pray for the people in purgatory. We are appealing to God's mercy again, and God will have more mercy upon them. Karl Rahner, a great theologian, he says, hell must be empty because God is so merciful. And he says, one may live as an atheist, but one does not die as an atheist. Because at the last moment of his or her death, what happens, we do not know. At the last moment, he may say, oh, God, please forgive me for all that I have done. And God is so merciful. If we can realize at that last moment, God naturally will take him into heaven. So he says, hell must be empty. God is so merciful. Of course, merciful God is also just God. So there will be some sort of justice, but what sort of justice, what sort of punishment, we leave it to God. We need not give any suggestion to God, I think. God is merciful. At the same time, he's a just God. So we cannot take him, God, for granted, saying he's just a God. No, he's not just a God, he's a just God. So we need to trust in his mercy. At the same time, the merciful God is also just God. And that is why we are called to live a life worthy of being God's children. It's also, in many other ways, it's helpful to pray for the dead, such as to revive their memories and to thank God for their gifts in our lives. Because what we are today is because of our parents and others who are alive or dead and gone. So it is a moment of being grateful to them. And to pledge ourselves to continue all the good works that they have started, to remind ourselves to practice all the noble values that those people stood for, to be careful not to imitate the bad habits, if any, that they had happened to have, because some people might die of some addiction. So it's a reminder, hey, be careful, right? So it's a great help to remember these people who have gone before us. And above all, to tell ourselves that tomorrow we are also to follow them to their place. And that's what I said in the beginning. the dying or burying the dead. Now, what is life? In this context, when we look at life, it's a $1 million question. Perhaps it's wrong to say it's a $1 million question, because even if you give $1 million, you will not get the answer. Okay, as any experiential reality, it escapes complete definition. What life is, we do not know. We can speak of only signs of life: movement, eating, speaking, producing, reproducing, digesting. All these things only signs of life, but not life itself. Because we can get a child from a frozen sperm or egg. 21 years recently, they got a child from a frozen sperm. And all these 21 years, the sperm did not move, did not speak, did not eat, did not digest, did not reproduce. So without all these signs of life, still some element of life was sticking to that. That's why it's able to produce another life. So what is life? It again escapes our complete recognition, comprehension. We can only speak about the signs of life. This is a sperm and the egg. Okay. Now, what is that makes something living? It's a mystery. We know the difference between a living being and a dead thing. We know. But what makes that difference? We do not know. Even science wonders what life is and where the life is in our body. Science is wondering. It's not in the bones, or is it in the bones or brain or blood vessels or blood cells or chromosomes, genes? Where is life? But everywhere. But what is that life? About 50 minerals, salts, chemicals present in nature, in the distant stars, they are also in our body. And all these chemicals and minerals need to be in the right quantity, in the right ratio. Now, as I said in the beginning, potassium, when it is more problem, less problem. Iodine, all these things are there. So we are made part of this nature. And the different parts in our body die at different times. Today, science speaks about somatic death and molecular death. Somatic death involves stoppage of respiration, circulation of blood, and brain functions. That is somatic. Soma means body. And molecular death, the molecules within the body die at different levels. That is why eye transplantation or heart transplantation is possible, because these parts are die at a different level. Skin cells continue to multiply for a few hours after we die. The food that we ate finally, that is being digested in the stomach for 6 hours more after we die. Now the person is dead, but the cells are multiplying, the food is being digested, and all these microbes and bacteria, they are living. From where do they get life? So the question is, so far, does this bacteria give life to me, or I'm giving life to the bacteria? We do not know. That is why more and more we come to know about this biological world. The great mystery remains. This great scientist, Albert, a Hungarian Nobel laureate, biochemist, he discovered vitamin C. He says, in my search for the secret of life, I ended up with atoms and electrons. Somewhere along the line, life has run out through my fingers. Who says? A great biologist, not just an ordinary biologist, a Nobel laureate. And he says, life has escaped through my fingers. I am not able to catch hold of it, what it is. Life and death, two sides of the same coin, as I said. See, we can't speak about life without touching upon death, because we already started speaking about death. You see how it's not possible to speak about life without reference to death, because life and death are two sides of the same coin. The more we die, the more we live. There's a prayer, traditional prayer for the Eucharistic adoration available. They give a beautiful example of candle. A candle is burning as it is melting, and it is melting as it is burning. Oh, human beings, you are living as you are dying, and you are dying as you are living. Now, I cannot live if I am not ready to move on to the next moment. If I cling on to this moment, no, I don't want to live, I cannot live. So I have to die to this moment in order to live to next moment. And that is where life and death are made. Breathing in is a sign of life. Breathing out is a sign of death. Death usually taken to be more mysterious than life, because it is more frightening, because we do not know what happens. None of us have experienced real death as such in our life. We have seen death-like experience, or we have seen people who are dying, etc., but we have not experienced. Maybe my long lecture may give you like death-like experience, but I speak about real physical death. We have not experienced it. So it is unknown to us. Anything that is unknown to us, it is more frightening. But actually life is equally mysterious, and if not more. So death is mysterious. Life is also equally, if not more mysterious. Day of death is hidden from us. We say God has hidden the day of death because life will not be possible if we know when we are going to die. But in my opinion, there is no such a day of death because every moment we are dying, isn't it? So if every moment I am dying, then why to speak about the day of death, which comes at the end? Father Kuruvilla, some of you may know, is a professor in JD. He has written a book, Death, Live It. We should live death. That means we should embrace death. Then it's no more frightening. It's part of our existence. We have to, but any living creature has to die. So he gives a lot of philosophical, theological, metaphysical reflections in that book, Death, Live It. And I'm thinking of another book, Life, Die It. Okay, just to challenge him. Not challenging, he speaks the same thing from a different perspective. So the next book would be Life, Die It. That would be very interesting, I think. There are researchers to say that we don't actually die because if you take life as an energy, according to the law of thermodynamics, energy can never be created or destroyed. Life energy is there; it can never be destroyed. It can move or it can transform one form to another form. And when what we call death is actually the change of energy of life, so-called energy, into another form about which we do not know because we have not reached that stage. Perhaps it is the life after death that religions speak. I don't know. So we never die. Human life is not in just being there. It is not just being, because then there is no difference between a human being and a stone. Human life is not just breathing in and out. Then there is no difference between humans and plants because plants are also doing the same. Human life is not just eating, sleeping, procreating. Then there is no difference between humans and animals because they also do the same thing. Human life is going beyond oneself to reach out to the others, to find meaning and meaningfulness in life. To find meaning and meaningfulness, both are different because meaningfulness is personally available to me. Suppose I show you a letter written by my friend. If you know the language, you will get the meaning of the letter, meaning of the words written there or the language. But the letter becomes meaningful to me because written by my friend who I know very much. So meaning and meaningful both are available only when we go beyond ourselves. For example, our eyes cannot see themselves. The eyes have something outside of it, outside of them to work as an eye. The ears cannot work as an ear unless there is a sound waves outside. If there is no sound waves, the ear and the piece of leather both are same. So ears can be ears only when there is something outside of it. Eyes can function as an eye only when it depends on something outside of it. The eyes can never see themselves. Human life also similarly, it is meaningful only when we go beyond ourselves. Very strong desire in us towards permanence and stability. That's why anything that is temporary, we are not happy. Whether it's a job or a building. Now, when it's a temporary job, I don't want. Even if the salary is less, I want a permanent job. Why? That permanency is there. And then building, suppose an engineer says, if I put up a building, it lasts for 25 years. Another engineer says, if I put up a building, it will last for 50 years. Whom will we choose? The second fellow, because the building will last for 50 years. Right? I may die within 5 years, but I want my building to last longer. That sense of stability, the desire for stability is fulfilled there. Similarly, when we go to the supermarket, when we buy some food products, we look at the expiry date. One milk packet says 1 week, another milk packet says 2 weeks expiry. We'll buy the 2 weeks expiry date, that product. We may finish the milk within 2 days, but still we want that milk to last for 2 weeks. And in fact, these days we are worried about the expiry dates of the food products precisely because we are worried about our own expiry dates. Okay, Fulton Sheen, when he had to undergo some major surgery, just the previous evening, someone asked him, Bishop, are you not afraid that you're going to face a major surgery? And he said, two things can happen after the surgery. Either I will die or be alive, not after the surgery. Either I will be alive or I will be dead. If I'm alive, I will be with God. And if I'm dead, God will be with me. What a beautiful, genuine spirituality, you know? If I'm alive, I'll be with God. If I'm dead, God will be with me. So let's live each day like it's our last. One day we get it right? And every day we may think it's the last day. We may get the next day. We need not be pessimistic. The point is we should use the day to its fullest meaning and utility. We should not lose every moment, any moment of our day. So let's live each day as our last, and one day we get it Right. Okay, last 7 minutes and we come to the part 4. Hopefully I'll finish by 7. Now, some practical tips and for meaningful life in the context of All Saints Day, November 1st. Though here chronologically I speak November 2nd first and November 1st later, but in the liturgy, November 1st, All Saints Day, and then All Souls Day. This day is celebrated not only by the Catholics, but also by the Methodists, the Lutherans, and some other Protestant denominations. And in the Eastern churches, it is celebrated on the first Sunday after Pentecost. Even as early as 270 CE AD, all martyrs were remembered. Then Boniface IV, he dedicated a church in Rome to honor Blessed Virgin and all the martyrs in 609. In 1837, Pope Gregory IV ordered its general observance of this feast. How many actual saints are there? When we say All Saints Day, how many actual saints are there? We do not know, right? We may know a couple of them, or if you see the liturgical calendar, each day there are some saints, maybe 365 or 400 saints. Number of saints. These are all actual saints, innumerable. How many possible or potential saints? Possible or potential? About 8 crores. What is that number? 8 billion is the population of the world. So including you and me, we are all possible and potential saints. And every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. This is a fundamental lesson for us. When we celebrate All Saints Day, every saint may have a very bad past. For example, St. Augustine, we know the life. 8 years, his mother, Monica, prayed for him and he became a saint, etc. So every saint may have a bad past, but every sinner has a future. Future starts here and now. I cannot say I'll be a saintly life, I'll start leading a saintly life in future. I do not know when that future starts. If not here and now, when and where. We can't tell ourselves I can be saintly in future, precisely because we don't know the hour of and day of our death in the practical sense. Earlier I said there's no such a day like day of death in a different sense, but here, practically speaking, there is supposed to be a day called our death, and we cannot wait for the future to occur. Now, some qualities to be a saint. What are the qualities to be a saint? Sincerity. According to Mother Teresa, sincerity is more important than holiness, because sincerity in words, actions, and attitudes, God is a bridge to all this. We can cheat, mislead, and take people for granted, but we cannot take God for granted. He's not just a God, he's a just God, as I said. God goes by the intention of an action, not the external aspects. So sincerity is one important characteristic of being a saint. Sincerity in our words, actions, and attitudes. And Jesus says, don't judge others. You know, it's always interesting when Jesus says, don't judge others, because any judgment, to be genuine, it should be really impartial judgment. But to make an impartial judgment, we should know the full knowledge of the person. We should know the full knowledge of the situation. And as long as we are human beings, we can never ever have the full knowledge of human person, full knowledge of the situation. Then how can our judgment be impartial? It will be partial. Also, there will be something to gain for us from the judgment that we give. So all the judgments will be based on the evidence available. That's why even in the courts, when they give the judgment, there is always a chance to make further appeal in the higher court. From lower court, we can go to high court, Supreme Court, etc. Even finally, the mercy petition to the president. And second judge may reword or change the verdict of the previous judgment, saying with the new evidences, I give this, pronounce this judgment. So we can never ever have the full knowledge of the person, of the situation. Only God can know that. That is why only God can give the genuine, real judgment. And that's why Jesus says, don't judge others. So sincerity, it's known to me. Oftentimes we jump into conclusion to judge others, etc. So sincerity is one important quality for being saint. Then alertness, essential to grow in intellect, relationship, spirituality. Unless I am alert, I can stumble over when I climb the stair or climb down the staircase. When I light the candle, I may get burned with a matchstick unless I am alert. Similarly, this alertness is important in our relationship, in our spirituality also. Without this alertness, we may invite devil and evil in our lives, or we may reject God also by mistake. Soon we are going to start the season of Advent. Advent is a season of alertness, in my opinion. And in Hyderabad, there is a big shopping place called Abbott's Road. A driver was taking the couple in the car. They bought some things, valuables, in the jewelry shop for the daughter's wedding, big amount of jewels and so on. They kept in the car, they were traveling. After some distance, they told the driver to stop there to buy something else. So they went to the shop, the jewel box was in the car. The driver came out of the car and he was leaning over the car and waiting. Suddenly from nowhere, a stranger came and told, "Sir, your money has fallen down." The driver looked down, 10 rupee note, currency note was there. He picked up thinking it's not mine, how it fell down, he was thinking. And meanwhile, the jewels box disappeared. So the fellow with the evil intention came there with a good disguise, as if he is interested in the drivers not losing the money. Similarly, in our lives, unless we are alert, we receive evil and we reject God, because both are coming to our lives in a disguise, of course, with a different purpose. Okay. Innovation. We need to be innovative in our lives, not only in our intellectual lives, in our academics or scientific, even our spiritual life also, we need to be innovative. How to please God, how to give God to the others, how to make God present in the godless world. The action and contemplation. We need to have innovative ways. And again, this is a saintly quality. And the awareness of nothingness. With God, I am a hero. Without God, I am zero. With God, I am hero. Of course, I can say heroine also, but hero and zero goes rhymingly. Hero, I cannot say zero in. So hero and zero. Of course, heroine also. With God, without God, we are zero. Everything is a gift from God except sins. This realization leading to total surrender. We can't be the masters of our destiny. Even science is teaching us today. No use of pride or arrogance. It is only ignorance, as I said earlier. So nothingness. And finally, my dear friends, the value of time. The value of time, a saintly person will know it. Not that we should be always busy doing great things, etc., but spending the time in a useful manner. We need to have time for relaxation, for enjoyment, for picnics, etc., but whether we are using the time constructively, because time is life. Oftentimes people say time is money. It's very, very wrong, because money can be borrowed, can be begged from others, can be robbed from others, but time can never be borrowed or begged, etc. Time is life. Valuing time is valuing life. Valuing life is loving God, because life is Jayard service. Anyway, we don't have time. So the point is, we know the value of time, and when we waste time, we are wasting life. What we see on the dial of the clock, two needles are running, the small hand and big hand. It's not actually needles are running, their hands are running. It's my very life is running on the clock. We spoke about some characteristics. You remember? Sincerity, alertness, innovation, nothingness, time. All these five qualities make together saint. So when we keep up all these qualities in my life, and the celebration of All Souls Day is a great reminder, invitation to keep up at least these five qualities in our life: sincerity, alertness, innovation, nothingness, and time, the value of time, and we automatically become a saint, even without our being conscious of it. No humility, no spirituality, and no humility, no spirituality. Please note the differences, okay, of the spelling. If I am proud, I cease to be sincere, because my pride will hide and block everything. I become insincere. In sincerity, if pride enters, then the list of the qualities, yes, is replaced by P. When yes is replaced by P in saint, what does it become? Yes, saint becomes pain. Many of us are only pain, not saint. Okay, so if P, pride comes in the beginning, yes, sincerity is replaced with P, and saint becomes pain. A saint or merely a pain? We should think of ourselves, ask ourselves. Okay, concluding remarks. So now many of you may be happy to see these words, concluding remarks. Let us always count the blessings of God and others. That will always keep us grateful to God, others, and nature, and that will turn make us happy. Now we all want to be happy. There is no exception. Everybody wants to be happy. The one single or rustless, tennis courts grassless, coffee caffeineless. Our prayers are devotionless, charity heartless, our faces smilesless, relation loveless, dress topless, our attitude careless, our feelings heartless, our politics shameless, our education valueless, our lectures pointless, but not this one that I am giving. I'm speaking about other lectures. Okay, and then our mistakes countless, our arguments baseless, our bicycles. Sorry, it is wheel rustless, tennis courts grassless. It is repeating. Okay, our job thankless, our boss brainless, perhaps always, or everybody, and our income very, very less, our emails useless, our society godless. Dear friends, in this situation, if we proceed with a lesson less, one day we may become vacuum and empty within ourselves. Before that happens, let us become wise and not God, because only God is endless. So when we turn to God who is endless, all this less will not have any effect in our lives. Finally, divine wisdom, human knowledge. We need to reach out to the divine wisdom so that our human knowledge becomes useful, and even science comes to know how to use that knowledge in the proper way. Science can never tell us how to use knowledge this way or that way. We need to have wisdom in order to make use of that way. And yeah, so with that, I finish. Um, Divine wisdom and human knowledge. And Corona has taught us, and my own faith experiences have taught us that need to rely on human wisdom, and the whole humanity has to rely on human wisdom in order to make the best use of human knowledge. So with that, I thank the organizers and all the participant listeners. I've taken 5 minutes extra. Sorry about it, because I spoke about time. I should have been careful with time, right? So 5 minutes extra, excuse me. Good. Thank you. Over to Dinesh.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Uh, Maybe you can stop the sharing.
Sure, sure. I've shared enough, I think, so I can stop sharing.
So, thank you. So, thank you to everybody for your patient participation in this whole process. Thank you, Stephen, for sharing your own personal experience of being in the ICU, of experiencing God in the ICU, and engaging on a journey of searching for meaning, for meaningfulness. Okay, so we welcome now questions from all the participants. Now, since there are around 50 people, it might be easiest if you just type them in the chat, or if there are not too many, you can just unmute and ask the questions directly.
I think they are not asking questions because they know that I don't know the answer. And we have some professors, my colleagues, philosophers and theologians. I'll be happy if they also step in to clarify certain doubts which I do not know. Thank you.
Yeah, somebody says that the greatest miracle is that you could talk for 1 hour without any break, even after COVID. So thank you.
Yeah, correct. Because 2 months I did not speak, no? I have to compensate now, I think.
You have to compensate, right?
Thank you.
Okay. If anyone has a question, you can just type it in the chat, or just raise your hand or
Any question in the chat?
unmute. So far, I don't see any questions.
There's some comments of appreciation. Good, thank you.
Well, since until then, okay. Okay, so there is a request to see the slide. Grace is mercy. Grace is something, mercy mercy is something, blessing is something, right? So, if I remember right, grace is when God gives us something that we don't deserve. Mercy is when God does not give us the punishment we deserve. And blessing is when God gives us both mercy and grace.
But I'm glad that Dinesh got it right because my professor, Korean Kunam used to say, when you speak, be careful. At least one may be listening in the audience. That one is you, I think. Dinesh, thank you.
So there is a question here. It's a kind of a personal question. So somebody's asking, like, did you think at any time in your journey in the ICU, would you did you at any time think that you were going to die and you're not going to come back?
Yeah. Luckily, many days I was semi-conscious, unconscious because of sedation and all. Because when the ventilator tube is there, it will be irritating, so they keep the patient some sort of sedation. But as I said, no, when I saw some patients getting heart attack, and naturally that fear was there. And again, they say there will be a lot of after effects. The heart is affected, and on that June 9th, when the carbon dioxide carbon dioxide is more, oxygen was less. I remember my dad and all, no? Not exactly that day because it was June 9th, I came to know later. But when I heard that carbon dioxide is more, I remember immediately my dad. And I prayed to God, okay, it's up to you whether you want me to come to you now or later. And mother is praying this side to take me back. And God, father is praying to take me there. So I said, who will win? At the end, my mother won, I think, at least for time being. Because one day I ended up going back to my care, God and dad. So there were moments, Dinesh, quite stressful and tense. But my brother, cousin, they constantly encouraging me. They said you need to have full willpower, and then that will strengthen your immunity. Because even with all the medicines, if your immunity system is less, and if your willpower is not there, you cannot. Immediately, therefore, they were also trying so much, to make me sit and make me walk with the walker and so on. So all these things worked together, and they were all God's grace, which was actualized by all these people, all these prayers. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. There is another question from someone here. You got better, and then again you had to go back onto the ventilator. How was that for you?
It was quite disturbing because the doctors were surprised that I went back to the ventilator because of the pneumonia infection. I was getting better. They said after 1 or 2 days I can go to the general ward, and after a couple of days I can go home. So we were preparing that. Suddenly I got that breathing difficulty. Then slowly they realized pneumonia. They took me back. This thing. It was quite disturbing and painful. Yeah. But again, the matter of faith that God will somehow will take me out. That's why the Psalm 91 becomes more meaningful now, right? Earlier, yeah. Thank you. And some of my friends have joined from Malaysia. Thank you, Vincent and Tony, and Sanjeevi. Yes. Good. Any other question?
Good to see you well, Father.
Good. Thank you, Tony. Yes.
Listening to you.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thanks for prayers. Say hi to everybody, okay?
Yes, I will.
Right. If there are any questions, you can just unmute and ask a question.
Yes, Francis boy. Yeah. What is a new insight did you get during this stage of your life? A lot of things. Some of these things I was already aware that science is helpless in many ways. Now I've experienced more because, for example, in my case, the doctors did their best with all the possible advanced equipments, gadgets that they had, of course. And Bangalore, St. John's Hospital is one of the premier hospitals in India. And many say I could be saved because I went there and all. So in spite of all these things, the doctors themselves realize it's only God is healing us. We give only medicines. So there is some supreme power, some divine wisdom behind all these things. I always ask myself, there are lakhs of people who could not survive, could not come back. Even priests also in India, they say about 260 priests. And some in our neighboring dioceses, our own, who studied in Jnana Deepa, Papal Seminary. So in this context, why God brought me back? So there must be some meaning or purpose behind it. And science now is one more realization, as I said, this tiny nanometer virus, we are not able to control it. On the other hand, we are able to explore the space, how many millions and billions of light years, etc. So science is helpless, and there will always some element of mystery to it. That's why they say we will never come to know the full functions of brain, because when we study about the functions of brain, we are using a similar brain in our head. So there will be some residue about which we'll never come to know. Unless we are able to soar above all these things, above the brain, if we are able to study the brain without the use of brain, perhaps we'll come to know more about the full functions of the brain. But as long as we need a brain to study a brain, there'll be some residue which we'll never come to know. It's like a small fish and mother fish and baby fish. The baby fish was asking mother fish, "Mommy, what is ocean?" The mother fish said, "This is ocean. You are swimming. This is ocean." The baby said, "No, this is only water. Where is ocean?" Now, unfortunately, mother fish cannot take the baby fish into the space to show this is ocean. Similarly, we are bound in space and time. Science, with all its advancements, etc., we are still bound in space and time. We can never soar above all these things to have complete reality. Therefore, the answer, Francis, is that Corona situation has made us realize, made humanity realize in a little more deeper way that science is limited, and all the scientific minded people should take note of it. Yeah. There's some other question. How to regain our lost soul regardless of person or thing? What is self-remedy? Okay, about the point that comes to my mind, many of these things is a matter of faith and how we are taught in different religions, etc. Life after death, rebirth, and so on. And the lost soul means, I don't know in what sense you are saying it is lost, whether it is gone to hell or condemned soul, etc. I don't know exactly what is meant by lost soul, but there'll be some element of living after that. For example, Catholic faith, we believe in the resurrection of the body. But how exactly the body, the same features, same color and complexion, etc., we do not know. But some sort of this bodily aspect will be there, because that's why the body is also holy. Our body is not just a prison to have soul inside. And when you die, the soul is released, and only soul is important. No, we believe in the resurrection of the body, but how exactly, we do not know. This is what comes to my mind. Maybe other professors may add a point to it. Yeah. Dinesh,
yeah. Okay. I'm just reminded of Francis Xavier's Ignatius's words to Francis Xavier. What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his life? We can go after the things of this life and then ultimately lose eternal life, ultimate meaningfulness. There's a question which somebody posted, Stephen, that life and death are experienced at the same time. So I just reposted it for everybody.
So does being closer to death bring more fullness of life, personality for Stephen? Being closer to death, usually when we think of death, we think of the day when we actually die. But actually, as I said, every moment we are dying, every moment we are living. So let's not think of the day of death, so to say, the day of death, about which we do not know. Rather, let us live the life every moment, every day in its fullest sense. That's why they say, no, instead of adding years to life, let us add life to years. That is more important than adding number of years. Because each and every hour, every minute, every second, even every millisecond is important. Every millisecond is 1 second. The duration, 1 second divided into 1,000 times, like milliliter, millimeter. 1 millisecond is also useful. That's why they say when I look at an object, that visual experience goes to my brain, and the visual experience sensation goes to the brain through my eyes, retina, etc. The brain decodes the sensation, and I realize this is a particular object. It takes about 80 milliseconds, they say. 80 milliseconds. Again, that shows I can never see anything, any object exactly at that moment. There'll be always a time lag of 80 milliseconds. So every millisecond is important. Every second is also important. Once a fellow was walking on the road, suddenly he had a voice, stop, stop, stop. He stopped, zooming fast, going truck, just zoom and turn. And he was thanking God, thank God you stopped me. Had I taken one step ahead, I would have been crushed by the truck. Then he was thanking God. On another occasion, he was walking on the mountainous road. Suddenly he heard the voice, stop, stop. He stopped, and a big rock just rolled down and fell in front of him. Had he taken one step ahead, he would have been crushed by the rock. So he was very happy that voice saved him. But he wanted to know who that voice is. So he asked, every time you are saying stop, stop and saving me, who are you? Then the voice said, I am your guardian angel. And I save you, protect you from all the dangers in your life. Then he said, thank you, my dear guardian angel. But where did you go when I got married? He said. So the point is, even some married people are laughing. Good. So we can say, where did you go when I became a priest? Or where did you go when I joined this diocese or that congregation? Anyway, jokes apart. The point is, every second is important in our life. Sometimes we just enter the railway station, the other end of the platform, the train is going off. And we've been just a few seconds, few minutes earlier, we would have got the train. So the point is, let us not worry about death, let death worry about itself. Let us worry about life. And that life is a gift, and let us live that life to its fullest extent. That's why Jesus, in a way, said, no, let the dead bury the dead, in a different context, of course. So let us worry about life, let us enjoy life, let death come. Kurvila's book, let us embrace death. Die it, death, live it. Okay, so that's my little reaction to that. Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any comments, maybe some insights that you may have got along the way?
I've got a senior priest also for MS Lawrence with me here on my diocese. He could not follow this case here. He always enjoys my jokes, and that actually encourages me. I realized in some places I had to go fast because I was conscious of time. And as I said, mentioned about for Jayard Prabhu, he was a professor of past good memories in Jnana Deepa. In 93 or 94, I think he got retired in the month of March. That time when he retired, he said, as I'm retiring now, I feel the value of time. I've got a couple of ideas to write, some dozens of articles, couple of books. I don't know how much God has given me time to write all these things. He said that in March, but in the month of June or July, he was killed in a road accident. So all the good ideas gone with him to the graveyard. And he is a great scholar, wrote so much, so many articles, so many books. Even he felt that he has not used his time to its fullest sense. So the point is, let us make the best use of time. As long as we are healthy, we are able to go about, do something constructively. And even we are not doing any physical activity, let us use the time more constructively by giving hope to the others, giving meaning to the others, by praying for the others. Because the best thing that we can ever give, the most expensive thing that we can ever give to others is our time. Maybe a valuable gift or money, these things, etc., that can be bought. But when we give time to the others, that is something which we lose for whole of our life. We can never ever regain that time. Suppose if I give a gift to the others, similar gift I can buy or somebody can give me. But when I give time, that time is lost for once and for all. Lost in the sense, it should be usefully spent. So all this Corona experience, etc., made realize all these things. Now, Freddie says, here's a question. Can we say that pandemic has made us somewhat come back to God as we were living in our own world and not thinking about spirituality? Yeah, in a way, yes. All the spiritual people, they've been always spiritual, whether pandemic or no pandemic. Same thing, 9/11 attacks happened. In the US, the churches were full and memorial services, prayer services, etc. Only when such bad thing comes, immediately we think of God, immediately we think of destiny. some people will never think of death unless they pass through the graveyard, in front of the graveyard. They think they are going to live forever. That's why someone said very meaningfully, some people live as if they are never going to die. And some people at the end, they die as if they have never lived in their lives. It's a very pitiable thing. Living to make life meaningful, there are very many ways. And in my opinion, Corona has made us realize the whole humanity, and individually, collectively, we need to realize that. Yes.
So thank you for that, Father Stephen. I'm sure there are many questions that Stephen has awakened within us. There is much to ponder deeply, because coming face to face with one's own death, coming face to face with the death of a loved one, can really challenge us, can invite us to think deeply about the fact that we are going to live. There is this very beautiful book by Richard Bach, the guy who wrote the book on Jonathan Livingston Seagull. So he has this book, Illusions. And there is this line over there. How do you know if your mission in life is complete? And the answer is, if you're still alive, it isn't. So Stephen, I think, discovered that his mission is yet to be played out. All of us have our own mission. And I think this is the invitation that COVID is giving to us, to really live life in depth, not just superficially, to live life meaningfully, and to live life deeply in relationship to God, with a mindfulness of how tiny we are in relationship to the entire universe, and yet how profoundly important each one of us is in God's eyes. So thank you, Stephen. Thank you to each one of the participants, and to all those who are attending on YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you. I also take this opportunity to thank Jnana Deepa for arranging all these beautiful programs. And I hope in future there will be more people joining us in the Laity program. I thank our President, Francis Gonsalves, and Dinesh, the coordinator. Though he said I am the coordinator, he is virtually doing everything. So all the other team members, Patricia, Paul Dutch, and Linus, Dabri, and so on. So thanks everybody, and also I thank our papal seminary staff and students also for their support. And I thank all the participants in Pune, outside Pune, in Tamil Nadu, in India, outside India. So I thank everybody. Okay, God bless you. Thank you.
So to all of you, a big thanks. And
is this talk available in the YouTube?
It should be. Yeah. It's streaming live. Yeah. So thank you to all of you. A reminder that next week we have Father Sebastian Varapilli, who will be talking to us about theology as the quest for truth, the quest for personal meaningfulness in our lives. So welcome. I will send out the link to all those who have signed up. And of course, if you sign up on the JD YouTube channel, you will be intimated as soon as we go live. So till then, till next Saturday, have a wonderful week.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Comments will be typed. Comments will be.
Thank you, fathers.
Thank you.
And I also said
Thank you, Father.
Comments, everybody must have seen that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. See you again.
Thank you to everybody.
God bless everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeevi and Tony, and my brother Kanraj.
Welcome. Very interesting. You always hear you.
Yeah. Fine. Yes.